Welcome to the Side Ventures series by Sony Ducks. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to yet another episode of Side Ventures. It's our series where we get to dissect the side ventures that professionals in healthcare are tackling. And on this episode, we have Dr. Zhen Chan with us. Zhen, would you like to introduce yourself and let us know just a teeny bit about you?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Zen. I grew up in Miami, Florida. I was born in China, moved there and immigrated with my mother when I was a ripe young age of 1, and was there basically my entire life. Went to University of Miami for undergrad, med school, did a year in business school that was focused on health management and policy, and then went on to residency in New York City with New York Presbyterian on the Cornell side. So was there for 3 years. Really, when I went into residency, I wanted to go into hematology oncology, pediatric hematology oncology. And there was a little stint where I thought about PICU as well. Really, all my choices have been based on the demographic of patients that I get to work with. Working with families going through really tough times, and of course, kids going through really tough times. And what ultimately happened, and I think it was seeded from the MBA year I had, was wanting to work a little bit on the back end of healthcare, or not even a little bit, a lot of it on the back end of healthcare, because I got really entrenched in some of the quality improvement work that was being done at the hospital when I was in residency, a lot of advocacy work as well. And I was getting a certain or deriving a certain level of job satisfaction from those areas that were carrying me through like the day to day. And so I started exploring and learn what industry, quote unquote, meant. And that's how I, got into actually a venture capital firm and worked with them for a year, did a fellowship with them and moved up to becoming a senior associate. Got kind of a really good lay of the land of what entrepreneurship and being a founder working on startups looks like. And then got connected to this studio called HealthWorks Studio, where they were thinking about this idea to change how physician recruitment works. And then I really enjoyed kind of the vision and strategy they had, aligned it with my own personal values and kind of in life and what I'm trying to do. Yeah, that's kind of a little quick blurb of 1 to now, 31.
Okay, so you're 31 years old. That's
Yeah.
interesting and relevant. You're fairly young, if I may say, in the, trajectory of becoming a physician and everything. And I'm sure that the audience who are listening know this already, but in case they don't, it takes many, many years to become a physician. And so most of us are around the age of, 27, 28 when we finish. Sometimes when we do fellowships, it does take even longer, and we're in our 30s when we're feeling ready to take on a job, and we're actually considered to be what's called attendings.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what field did you end up choosing?
So general pediatrics. So right now, in terms of practice, I'm working on my startup full time, and I'm practicing per diem in Washington D.C., where I'm located now, and I'm doing that in a fast track section of the emergency room.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Now, let's first of all, I did want to know how interesting it is that you were guided by the audience that you were going to have as a physician. That's a really interesting thing to sort of mention because, when we choose what field we want to be in, all of us are guided by different factors. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
interesting that you were guided through, the audience because those were the people that you really connected with. And I imagine that there's so much to help where it comes to those families that it just probably gave you personal satisfaction. Okay. So tell us now about your side venture.
Sure. So the company is called Grapevine, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention or need to give credit where credit's due. The idea came from a studio called HealthWorks Studio, also based here in DC. They were looking out for founders after they did some market research and kind of started building the minimal product a little bit. And they were looking for really a physician founder to come in and see if there was alignment in the mission. So what Grapevine fundamentally does is it's revamping how we learn about and are able to share jobs. We are not out there data scraping or like bringing in jobs that didn't want to be posted with us. So we're working with health institutions to actually tailor job listings specific to specialty, and then incentivizing this community or referral network to have any doctor can look at any job and share it with any other doctor they want. And if there is a, let's say, an application submitted that a physician goes through an interview process, gets placed ultimately, there are rewards that go to the original physician that referred them. And so it's kind of bringing that incentive, honestly, back into the physician network. As doctors ourselves, we are constantly receiving that spam text, the constant calls from recruiters and recruiting agencies that we're really honestly ignoring, right? Like the majority of us are not actively looking for jobs and going out to find recruiters to help us. And those that are, it's a small percentage of individuals. The majority of doctors are what would be called like a passive job seeker. So if something nice rolls our way, we'll take a look at it. But who better for that to come from than an actual peer that we already trust? And then going back to kind of the job listing itself, what we are trying to do very differently is instead of these more generic paragraphs and bullet points job posts, we're looking to make it more engaging. So how can we add graphics? How can we add video? How can we make it so that we are really making the job post focus on the physician and everything that a doctor would want to know before hitting that apply button, instead of just what you typically would see on like LinkedIn, Indeed, or even some of the more physician-focused websites.
Like SoMe which I'm going to get to in a minute, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah, please.
and I'm going to ask you about. But before we
Yeah.
do that, okay. So who does this cost? Like, does it, I'm assuming it costs the hospital side and not the physician side.
Yeah, yeah. So definitely the hospital side. And I'll touch upon kind of my more mission-driven aspect of this company for the physician side. So for the hospitals, because we don't need to hold on to a core team of recruiters and people who would usually take some kind of brokerage commission fee structure, we are able to outcompete other industry giants when it comes to price. And really, it's the healthcare organization. I would say the biggest lift is working on the post together itself. Once it's posted, then it's just letting the network work. For physicians, I'm not looking to charge physicians for this service. It's really just building a community like SoMe is doing, and like a lot of physicians who are interested in forming meaningful connections with each other. But I also think a lot of this is, for me, how can I use Grapevine to also offer the things we never learned in med school? When we are coming out of residency, coming out of fellowship, taking our first attending jobs, or even first-time attendings who are going for that second job, contract review, resume building, networking with people that are outside your physical ecosystem. These are all aspects that I want to bring onto the platform to help physicians in their careers and help them build that.
I can so relate to you on so many levels. First and foremost, because my dining room is painted the same dark blue. Um,
Oh, is it? I forget the name. I think it's Hamilton Blue. I'm not
I
sure.
don't know, but that's a cool name, right?
Yeah,
My
yeah,
dining room, literally, and I have built-in bookshelves just like that in my dining room. I'm sure that's your office actually, but
yeah. Can I actually share something? I
yeah.
need to plug her. My wife Daniela, who's a lawyer by day, she built this office. So painted all the trimmings on the walls. That is scrap wood from Home Depot that she bought a nail gun, bought a
Oh,
saw, and put it all up
wow.
there.
She's
IKEA
my
bookshelf.
type. Oh my,
Yep, yep.
really?
IKEA bookshelf mounted and put together. Yeah.
She's my type of human, bottom line, because that's literally my dining room's color.
Amazing,
As an
amazing.
aside, I love design. I mean, if I don't end up, doing this for the rest of my life, which I love
Yeah,
so many docs to the bottom of my heart,
yeah,
I
yeah.
will become a designer at some point or other. Okay.
Fantastic. You
So
can always do a little bit of everything, right?
yeah, exactly. Your wife. All right. The other thing I can really identify with is really trying to lower the costs of the needs that we have these days. The reason I can identify with that is because I'm trying to do that with SoMeDoc so much. It's so hard to grow a business and to raise the money that the business requires without doing a raise. Now, I don't know if you guys had a raise or not. You could tell me that soon, but
Yeah.
I decided not to have a raise, where it comes to SoMe because I really wanted that control and I wanted to really build it with my own vision.
Yeah.
But things like the conferences that we put together now, right? Like I'm building virtual conferences and I'm building many of them, but my
Mhm.
whole point was to really make them so no-brainer to attend, right? So not
Mhm.
only were we lowering the price on them ridiculously, but now we even have it free while they're live to get even more people in.
Yeah.
And it's just so easy because you don't have to travel anywhere. You don't have to take off vacation. You don't have to say goodbye to your family. Um, and I hear that you're doing similar things. You're just trying to kind of say, you know what, this is the pain point of today.
Yeah.
And this is how we are going to potentially solve that pain point or lower the threshold to people actually participating in it.
Right, right, right. That's absolutely correct. And I think, yeah, it is a little bit different given that we are from, a portfolio company within a venture studio. The expectation will be to go out and raise capital as we start to generate some revenue. That is the expectation. And right now, it may be a little bit of a tangent, but we are very much focused, like because you mentioned pain points. So that's kind of what triggered what I want to say. We really want to focus on a lot of the rural health and underserved communities who really, from the healthcare organization side, don't have these huge budgets to be spending on administrative costs.
We'll be right back. Check out our new obesity medicine conference.
I will be talking about anti obesity medications. We are going to cover everything from phentermine to Zepbound and all the medications in between and help you understand the pros and cons of different anti obesity medications, which patient is a fit for which, how to troubleshoot side effects, everything you need to know to comfortably prescribe these medications.
I'll share why working with and supporting parents and caregivers is crucial for effective, sustainable weight management in children.
I'm going to make a case for healthy sleep related to nutrition, exercise, and behavioral change. I'm also going to talk about how sleep problems can sabotage anti-obesity medications and bariatric surgery outcomes.
We are going to go beyond the BMI and uncover the truth about body composition and how to measure it.
We are in the need to be creative, to get outside of the box and to try new approaches using the technology that we have in front of us.
First, why should you be jumping into it right now? What care models are best? And how do you increase ancillary revenues in this model?
In this talk, we'll delve into the many factors contributing to excess weight during the perimenopausal period. We'll also explore evidence-based strategies for managing the weight gain, from lifestyle interventions to pharmacotherapy.
Neurobehavioral approach, I think, is going to be the key, along with the other tools that we use to treat weight loss in order for weight loss to finally be sustainable.
Some of the history of obesity medicine, current controversies, standards of care, and what the future might hold for obesity medicine. There are lots of exciting innovations coming down the pike.
We'll explore how social determinants of health, including economic stability, education, healthcare access, and neighborhood environments, play a critical role in obesity.
We will begin by discussing the current evidence around the use of plant-predominant dietary patterns, including describing what comprises a whole food plant-based way of eating. We will end with a brief cooking demonstration.
Discover the fusion of education and practical application in promoting healthy dietary patterns through culinary medicine.
Soak it all up virtually, either live or at your own pace through recordings, exclusively through SoMeDocs, the healthcare innovation hub that's looking to make things simpler.
Now back to our show.
We really want to focus on a lot of the rural health and underserved communities who really, from the healthcare organization side, don't have these huge budgets to be spending on administrative costs. And then they're honestly, like, the patients are suffering because they don't have access to primary care specialists, right? PCPs that are in family medicine and pediatrics, internal med, obstetricians that are on the outpatient side. These individuals that are crucial to actually provide access to care. And we're focusing on permanent positions, or at least part-time contracts, not locums, because we want to bring that continuity of care and access to care to these types of communities. And because of how we're structured and using a network, we can be a lower cost. And then if they're able to fill this position, learning through kind of this process and all the research, the ROI for a healthcare organization for bringing in a family medicine doctor is like 5 to 5.5 to 6x over the course of a year. They can easily lose about $1.5 million in revenue. And so it's a help for the healthcare organization, but then also it's more job visibility for whatever they're advertising or whatever their open role is. And then physicians themselves can maybe consider those types of jobs a little bit more. A lot of times we don't think about these jobs because it's like, yeah, I'll never move to West Colorado or some random town, but we have student loans. We have we just have so many things that we could take on incentives for that these places are sometimes willing to provide. And it will offer a little bit of more consideration. And the other thing I was thinking about is a work-life balance too. If a healthcare organization is able to kind of show that your work-life balance is a little bit better, we'll take care of so many of these admin tasks so that you can focus on being a physician. These are all things that we want to bake into our job listing so that physicians are like more attracted to these types of places.
And I think you mentioned that a physician would earn a referral earning for every referral that probably comes to fruition. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So if I had dinner one day with someone that's let's call it just general surgery, had dinner with them, they're like, yeah, I'm not really actively looking, pretty happy with my job right now. But if something better rolls my way, I'll take a look. And I'm willing to move into all of these states, whatever they said. And I see on Grapevine a job that actually I was like, hey, I think this is a better salary than what they're taking right now. I think like it looks like, they have the requirements that they want. The surgery, the breakdown of like what they're operating on and the patient demographic is like also kind of fitting. Let me copy and share that link over to them. So then that creates a personalized link from me. And then everything they do, submitting an application, interviewing, and getting placed, it'll be tied to that link.
I'm trying to really understand that. Do you mean that the person who's looking for the job is going to get a referral? I thought that my impression was that a person who's helping out the employer is getting.
No. So it's more, so the employer actually has no access to the platform itself outside of just our team working with them to create the post. Once it's on there, our community will look at these jobs, or like whoever is on as a user will be able to see these jobs. And if they think of a friend or a peer who it might fit, they can share it with them, which like you can do on any platform, but most platforms are missing kind of that incentive nudge.
Oh, I see. So if you're sharing it with a friend who ends up taking that job, then you're the person that gets that financial incentive reward at the end. And how do you control the fact that there could be more than one person sharing a job with sharing that
links,
job?
Yeah, the links are tied to person.
Okay.
So everybody has a personalized link, and there's a tracking system built in.
So is it the first person that had sent it over, or do you divide it?
At the moment, it would be the first person or whoever that recipient chooses to apply through the link. Yeah. So that would be as we build, these are the types of instances that could come up. Two people with the same friend that they're both like, oh, I'm going to share it with the same person. These are definitely instances that we will have to kind of accommodate for. And if the way that we think about it now doesn't necessarily work, obviously we're a startup and we always have to make pivots as we go.
Yeah, I'm asking that again based on the factors that I've had to consider with SoMeDocs as I'm building it out. There's so many different instances that can come about. And on that note, and I did ask you in advance if I can ask you this, and so I'm going to ask you this, is SoMeDocs has a job board now. It's a bit different than yours, but it still was created with the following in mind, that we want to just make it seamless and easy for doctors to find jobs. What I noticed as a pain point was that so many doctors were going into Facebook and sort of advertising their job needs and their job listings. And that's fine and that could work, but the more visibility, the better. So at SoMeDocs, we have a directory. We have members that are doctors. And so we allow our members to list a job for free. And then that job goes into a public job board that anybody out there can actually see. So it's actually recruiting more than just doctors. It can recruit someone for your office, like a front desk staff or a medical assistant, et cetera, et cetera. And we really want to make those connections in a better way so that those who are listing don't have to spend a ton of money to list. Now, that goes for the doctors because it's free for the doctors when they're members, not necessarily for large organizations or for hospitals, et cetera. My question to you is, how is yours different than that? And it's okay to not be different, and it's okay to both be players in the job market.
Yeah. I think there's a tremendous amount of overlap. I think the main difference, and admittedly, I've seen the SoMeDocs job board, but I haven't dug into every listing or anything like that. But what I think is the key difference is, one, it's that incentive nudge. So to kind of like supercharge the process a little bit. But I don't even think that that's the main one. It's more that we are working hand in hand with the institution to really craft out that listing. So as part of the process, we are actually, if it's not in my network, we're going out and interviewing different specialists and asking, hey, if you were to see a job, what are the bare minimum materials you need to see from that listing before even expressing interest? Because that's a lot of problem with some of the more just like typical job boards you see. It's they don't have enough information. And so we're just trying to make our job listings themselves look different enough and engaging enough that even before you speak to a person, you're like, this is like almost everything I need. I just need a couple more clarifying questions, which, you know, if that's something that SoMeDocs also decides like we can do that too, honestly, let's all just like help this space out, right? Like, I think we're in low supply, high demand, and still somehow very taken advantage of as a community. So the more the merrier.
Absolutely. I almost kind of pick up on this being almost like PR for the employer, meaning PR as in what's going to make you look better, sound better, and really grab the attention of the employee that you want to bring in. And that's interesting. I do really see a difference in the first point you make. And I really like that as a business model, in that you're now financially incentivizing doctors to help promote a certain employer, a certain job. That makes sense just from an entrepreneurial perspective. I'm obviously not talking about the, well, actually, let's pierce that a little bit now that I'm thinking that over. What happens if those that are using it, like the doctors that are using it, are like, or maybe that feel like maybe they should use it, but then are like, but you know what? If they're financially incentivizing physicians to use it, then how do I know it's a better position just because the doctor told me? Because the doctor's telling me because they're getting paid. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
We'll be right back. Our non-clinical conference is now here.
I'm a board-certified radiation oncologist, and I'm going to give a talk about the largely unknown world of helping people get expert medical opinions, second opinions.
I'm going to be talking to you about all the different kinds of paths and all the different kinds of roles that you can have in medical writing.
I transitioned to a non-clinical career working as a medical advisor, consultant, and chief medical officer about 8 years ago.
We will go through the ins and outs of how to become a trusted health expert and how to establish yourself as a healthcare media consultant.
I help to create the policies that we use to determine which medical interventions are covered.
Learn about how to become involved in health technology and the importance of clinician involvement as we see more solutions in AI becoming available.
I'm here to share 2 key elements with you to help you have a successful transition: possibility and positivity.
Be involved in member engagement, as well as setting health policy and developing programs to improve the health of your members, as well as lower the cost of healthcare.
My lecture will be about making the transition into pharma.
We're going to talk about what is your motivation to change from a clinical to a non-clinical career.
We will also review the path to becoming board certified in informatics.
I'll introduce you to careers for physicians at not-for-profit healthcare plans.
It's not only the how-to and the step-by-step things like having a resume, for example, but it's also about the mindset to help you get to where you want to be in your career.
We'll talk about some of the pitfalls, we'll talk about some of the challenges, we'll also talk about some of the benefits and how you can also monetize being a healthcare expert as well.
In my talk, I'll discuss all the tips and tricks to create a winning resume that stands out from the crowd, leaving you equipped to apply for a non-clinical role with confidence.
I'm going to discuss really the joys of academic medicine, how rewarding it is to train the next generation of physicians, and how you can truly move up continually in this career.
I strongly encourage you to learn more about a career in life insurance medicine. I will share why this career can offer a rewarding experience that is well worth the risk.
I'll show you how to establish yourself as a medical expert. You'll learn about the significant financial opportunities.
We need to learn the secrets of growth, so we use adversity in our favor.
Soak it all up virtually, either live or at your own pace through recordings. Now back to our show.
How do I know it's a better position just because the doctor told me? Because the doctor's telling me because they're getting paid. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. 100% question we get pretty often, including when I was even interviewing for this job. The studio asked me that same question. It's like, hey, this would be like our own concern with this idea, which is our baby, right? And so like, I think the main, there's two pieces. One piece is, I don't think the incentive is enough to turn into a side hustle. Personally, I think the incentive is enough to nudge the process along, but it's not enough to like turn physicians into recruiters. That's one piece. The other is everything's transparent. So on the job posts themselves, you see exactly what those financial incentives and rewards are. And fundamentally, I think, the doctors that are sharing, the way we kind of activate the network is by relevance. So you're talking to this physician or this physician sharing it with you, theoretically should have some tie to that facility, whether they trained there before or they worked in that town. And these are just generally going to be better individuals to speak with as opposed to a recruiter who might be upselling. I talked earlier about marketing and doing PR through the job listing itself, but what I will avoid is lying, right? Like I can't think of a better word than that. Like we don't want to lie on the job post or anything like that, or even bend the truth too much. But yeah, I think it's those two pieces that will prevent the doctor becoming recruiter type vibe.
Wow. So first of all, I want to just commend you that I admire a few things about you so far. And again, I don't know you well. I know you through interactions in the SoMeDocs community and now a little bit more here, but I commend you for your transparency. I also commend you for the ability to allow me to ask questions that can be tough on a venture and answering it without anger. I mean, I've dealt with so many entrepreneurs and I really am fairly experienced with, anger, resentment, and the way that entrepreneurs sometimes lash out when their venture is pierced. I personally hope that I'm very much like you in that I want my venture pierced as much as possible because that helps me to make it stronger, right? When people criticize, it's like it makes me think of what doesn't work. And so how can I actually change that to make it better?
Yeah, 100%. And sometimes, even when I'm giving answers and responses, like my response 1 month from now, if we decide that, this still isn't good enough. Like even this aspect, like, oh, we actually are seeing that this is incentivizing enough for doctors to become a little scammy or spammy. I don't want that. So then we have to make adjustments. And that's the nature of being in an early stage startup. It's taking these piercing questions, trying to answer them as honestly as you can in the moment, but then realizing that, maybe 1 month, 2 months down the line, as you gain more learnings and grow, things may change.
So a few follow-up questions is that, does the physician make a flat fee or do they make a percentage of some sort?
Right now it's flat. So we try to keep things, I think the percentage then can lead to a little bit more vagueness, a little bit more uncertainty. So we try to keep the incentives flat and posted so that everybody can see.
Well, that makes sense. And is it something that you can share with us?
It may be different for every
Gotcha.
to be honest. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. When are you planning to do the raise?
Yeah. We are expecting, we still have some internal kind of runway to go through. I would expect it to be sometime in 2025, either first half or middle of the year, somewhere between Q1, Q3.
And is there like a threshold or some criteria that you want to surpass in order to then raise?
Yeah, we want to be revenue generating by the time we are going out and raising. Of course, you're nurturing relationships and you're getting introductions and things like that at the moment, as we're already doing. But when we are actually making the call to raise itself, we want to be revenue generating by then.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. I mean, you'll certainly be able to convince investors more so if you're generating revenue, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. And are you up against stiff competition? Like, what are some of your main competitors?
Yeah. When I think of competitors, yes, there are main ones out there, right? Like the big industry players. So you have like the Jackson Physician Search, the AMN Healthcare, all these types of places. And then you have the ones that are not necessarily playing in the physician space, but so they're a little further away, but they're doing executive searches, and they may, if they want to pivot into physicians, they can. The players that I think of more often are those that are closer in stage or a little newer. So AMN Healthcare, actually, they acquired last year a company called Winnow AI. Winnow AI is doing something really tremendous. They're using just kind of an AI-enabled play to help activate who might be the best person connected to our employees internally to reach out to for a specific job that we want. And AMN kind of tied that together with another acquisition that they made called Doc Cafe. So they're a play that I definitely see as competition, but I would love to seek opportunities to collaborate too, right? I think there's always ways that you can collaborate. The one obvious one that always comes to mind, especially when people are asking for them, is Doximity. Doximity has like their talent finder and everything. I think we are doing something fundamentally different enough that it's not the same playing field. And Doximity, when you look at how their main business is going, it's not really focused on the job board. And then you can argue that LinkedIn, Indeed, and all these types of platforms, Practice Link, Healthy Careers, even the society job boards are all competitors, right? But our business model is different. We're like right now not charging anybody any listing fees. You don't need to charge it. You don't need to pay us anything monthly to list your platform with us or your healthcare organization with us. So there's a lot of still gaps. And you also think of locums. I think locums, and this may be a controversial take, but I think locums is like putting a Band-Aid on the physician shortage issue. Does it help a lot of doctors to make a little bit more money and fill a lot of gaps? Absolutely. And especially in fields like anesthesia, like radiology, where maintaining long-term continuity of care may not necessarily be the most prioritized aspect. I think locums and per diem is perfect to fill gaps. But again, going back to our rural health and underserved population focus, having a family medicine physician come in for 3 months, having the hospital credential them, go through all that process, only for them to leave 3 months later, it doesn't make sense for the patients. And for me, when I think about like my entrepreneurial future, the reason why I want to also maintain a minimal amount of patient care and clinical practice is because I don't ever want to lose sight of what is the downstream effect of everything we're doing in the healthcare industry, and that's on patient care.
Makes complete sense to me, especially with a background as an internist. I mean, we're both generalists. You were a pediatrician, or you are still a pediatrician. And so long-term care and relationships are key to, the fields that we're in. That's super interesting. And also that just a little bit on the differences between you and your competitors. I also really appreciate just how open-minded you are to collaborations. I just want to say collaborations are they seem very obvious to a lot of us, to the physicians who are out there. Oh, collaborate, collaborate. And of course, collaborations are amazing, but they're sometimes tougher to actually hammer down than most than it seems, especially when you actually have an entrepreneurial venture, because everyone really has to be happy and everybody has to sort of get their worth and get the worth of what they have worked so hard for until now. And so I like that you're open-minded to it. And I hope that other companies can really have doctors in mind when they kind of think about how to collaborate together.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that, doctors in mind piece. When I was working in the venture side of things on the investor side, seeing so many of these companies where they were making patient-facing products or patient-facing services and not having a physician on the advisory board or in the team, it just immediately didn't make any sense to me. Like, you could have the best product ever, and there's an adage, right? Like, it's the most expensive medicine is the medicine your patient doesn't take. And so it's like, if you can make whatever the best thing is, if it doesn't actually work for the doctor to prescribe or provide or use, or even downstream, if the patient's not going to be adherent to it, it's useless. And so, that's, always keep that in mind. I think if this is, listened to by any early stage startup founder, I think they have to always keep the clinician's perspective and the patient's perspective in mind.
Right. And quick shout out to the directory that we've built, because this is just one of the goals behind my having created it. This doctor directory that's free and public to use, and in which you're even listed, but all of these really incredible minds are listed. They're verified doctors with experience, and they can each be contacted for your startup, for your company. And you can actually fill your seats with practicing physicians, formerly practicing physicians, but people that have that experience that can help guide you along.
Yeah, yeah.
So wonderful. I think that was a really great dissection of your side venture. I'm wishing you luck.
Thank you.
I'm excited to see where this goes, especially when we have such a high rate of attrition and burnout, and we're seeing physicians really try to figure out what out there can be better. I hope that this is at least a resource for comparing notes, or maybe coming to their current employer and saying, hey, this person wants me. And so I hope that you consider what they're going to give me in me staying, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Amazing. Okay. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for listening.